a tough day.
Yeah.
We knew he wasn't very well. We knew this day was coming. But there is still incredible shock amongst people like yourself and others that knew him. It is shock, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's such a... I mean, I was so very close to Terry, so, you know, it's such a sort of major loss of it. It's certainly left a gap in my life. All right, for the last 3 years, Terry has not been very communicative because of the particular type of dementia that he was suffering, which closed down, ironically, the one thing he was really... well, one of the many things he was really good at, which was using words and all that. So I haven't been able to talk to him, and yet the fact of him now not being there, so I shan't be able to talk to him, even if he's not listening, that I won't be able to do that anymore is sad. But in a way, I'm quite relieved for him and for the family around. He wasn't happy really towards the end.
And one of the things that's really come out today, I mean, you listed in your statement, he was a writer, a director, you know, he was so many things. He was so multi-talented, wasn't he?
The great thing about Terry, which I really respected and was inspired by, was his enthusiasm. He's a terrific enthusiast, not always for the things that, you know, I was enthusiastic about, but everything he approached, it was, how do we do this? How do we get the best out of this? He worked very hard. He was always a marvellous writing companion because you'd always get something done. You know, even if I had a bad day or he had a bad day, we'd get something done because he had that sort of feeling of, you know, duty to get to do our work, get our money and all that sort of thing. But then he was a wonderful, wonderful person just to relax with. It wasn't just work, absolutely not. And he did get as enthusiastic about the maker of the beer than you would about, you know, the sort of writing a sketch for David Frost. Probably more enthusiastic about the beer, actually.
Did the two of you ever sit down, sort of all these years later, and talk about being, you know, the founders of something that has changed television? It's changed the world of television, and it's also changed our concepts of humour. You've influenced so many people afterwards. It feels like it happened very organically with the two of you, but perhaps there was a moment when you sat with Terry, you were very good friends, and thought, hey, we did good.
Yes. There were moments, I think. Generally speaking, it was just a feeling that we were always working under pressure. That was the great thing, you know. The BBC didn't particularly want Monty Python to start with. They didn't understand it or anything like that. But we were always trying to prove that we could do this, we could do that. So one's eye was always on the next thing, not the last thing. And I think it was only when we broke in America in 1974, and we went over there and realised there were actual fans, screaming fans, saying we love Python over in America, that Terry and I realised this was something a bit different from, you know, we actually sat back for a moment and saw and felt the enthusiasm. The rest of the time we were always feeling, oh, let's write another thing, let's write something new, what are we going to do next? We never sort of sat and rested on our laurels, and Terry wouldn't want that. Terry was always wanting to do something new, and he always had ideas. He had this great sense of wonder too, which I think is so important.
Do you think Life of Brian, obviously directing role, acting role, that iconic line, do you think that would have been amongst his proudest achievements, perhaps?
Oh, I think probably directing the Life of Brian, and as you say, appearing and writing in it, was probably Terry's greatest achievement, because he directed that on his own. He was a marvellous director of comedy, and we realised that when we were out in Tunisia, that he knew just how to shoot comedy, which wasn't always, you know, close-ups and camera work, you know, camera shots from all different angles. It was just letting people in a frame do their stuff for as long as it worked, because comedy worked on, you know, one person and the reaction of the other person. You didn't want to be cutting away to the other person, you just wanted to have them there. And Terry was very, very good at making sure that the comedy worked on screen, and I think we all absolutely loved him for that. And yes, he was so wonderfully committed to the whole thing. I remember one day he was playing the character, has to go and say he's the prophet, he's a hermit, that's right, and the juniper bushes and all that. And Terry decided he'd play it stark naked, apart from a very long grey beard, which was tucked under his groin. And it was fine. It was wonderful in character. But then there were moments when Terry was directing and it'd be saying, look, no, it's not that. No, what I want is the camera. You'll track in, stop the track there, then bring in a lamp. And there's a man, stark naked apart from a long grey beard, telling the crew what to do. Oh, it's just joyful, really.
Do you think we all gave him enough credit for what he brought to it? I mean, everybody knows you, Michael, they know John Cleese. We of course we know Terry Jones, but perhaps when one thinks Python and the skill of it, one tends to think of the better known ones, if you like yourself and John.
Yeah, I think that's possibly true. But part of the thing about Terry was he really was interested in lots of different things. And he was not, one thing he wasn't particularly interested in was publicity and self-publicity. He didn't really want to talk about things just for the sake of advertising them. He wanted to talk to people so he could have another idea. Sometimes you've just got to take time to tell people what you're doing, let people see what you're doing. I mean, Terry wouldn't, I rarely saw him interviewed. I don't think he went on Parkinson, for instance, things that all the little hacks like ourselves used to do. He didn't do much of that. He was always interested in the next project and the next idea. And sometimes it was, it might be a bit of comedy, sometimes it might be, he was writing a book on Chaucer, which is one of the authoritative books on Chaucer. I mean, Terry is well known amongst the academic community, and he goes and gives seminars and all that sort of thing. So he had so many arrows to his bow, if that's the word, that I think this probably meant that he didn't get the particular focus of attention that others got.
I spoke to Terry in 2013 to advertise the Python reunion. Absolutely gorgeous, charming man. And it was during that reunion on stage when you noticed perhaps that his memory wasn't what it was, because he was really brilliant at remembering lines and things, wasn't he?
Yes, it was quite a shock, that, because for a while I've been with Terry, and Terry had been slightly less focused than he normally was. Just so he would forget the odd thing here and there, and seemed to have slowed down a bit. But anyway, we did the O2 together. The rehearsals went absolutely fine, but on one or two of the sketches, he did have trouble with the lines, and that never happened before. Terry was complete and utter professional. He would expect people to know their lines. He would set the example himself. So that was kind of an indication. But on two or three of the sketches we did, especially with, when he was in drag with John, watching the penguin on top of the television explode, he never got that wrong at all. Absolutely terrific. It brought the house down. So it was a sort of, we weren't quite sure what was going on, but clearly something was happening, and that's when I realised it first.
How would you say, Michael, he dealt? How would you say, Michael, he dealt with his illness? I mean, when it was out, when it'd been revealed in 2016. He was happy for it, in a sense, to be revealed, wasn't he? Terry
was very, very open, and he wanted other people to be open as well. And I think he said, I've got dementia. He probably, when it was finally diagnosed, he would say that, I've got dementia, I can't remember anything. He would say that quite openly. He was a great one for sharing experience. Terry didn't want to sort of, tuck things away. He was very open, very happy to talk, and he felt it was very, very important that people were absolutely, totally honest with each other. And I think that's the way he dealt with it. But the particular severity of the decline, that took his voice away from him, I mean, that was very, very hard to watch, and that was really difficult, because Terry, being generous, being warm, being somebody who enveloped other people with his sort of love and affection, suddenly couldn't say what he wanted to say anymore, and that I think was quite cruel. I don't know, how he dealt with it after that. I'd go and see him a lot, and I wasn't sure whether he was taking it in. Some days I wasn't sure if he recognised me, but I'd always chat away. And once I took him a book, this is less than a year ago, I took him a book which Terry and I had written together a very silly book called Dr. Fegg's Encyclopedia of All World Knowledge. And I wrote it, I just read a few bits to Terry. We just together, I said, "You remember this, Terry? We did this and that." And suddenly he laughed. And he didn't say anything, but there was that little laugh that I remember so well. And what was particularly interesting was that he only laughed at the bits that he'd written. And I thought, well, he's got dementia under control there. But it was sad not to be able to talk to him about what he was going through. That was he was really robbed of that communication, as we all were, robbed of his talent.
How should we remember him, Michael?
I just think, that Terry was at the centre of an awful lot of wonderful work. He created things, serious books, children's books, marvellous comedy that would not have happened if Terry hadn't been around, Terry was an instigator. Terry started things. Terry was the spirit of Python. He kept them moving on when I think Python was thinking, "Oh, we've had enough now." Terry would say, "No, let's do another series. Let's go up to Scotland and film instead of just filming in West 12 and all that." His energy, I think, suffuses that whole period from Python onwards.
It's a really sad day then for yourself. Because you were a friend. We all thought we knew him, but you did know him. You knew him very well. So it's your response to this is a deeper one than we will know, I suppose, because you knew him so well.
Yes, everybody has their own sort of memories. I just spent an awful lot of time with Terry. Downtime, working time, thinking of ideas. He was enormously supportive of me, even when we split up and did separate things. Like I did Film the Missionary, which Terry wasn't involved in, but he was, I talked to him about it and he'd say, "Oh, let me have a look at the script." He was always there to help wherever he could. He was the most unselfish man, I think. Yeah, I think he was really.